Hello, my name's Megan, and I'm 37 years old. I just got married to the love of my life, Luke. I know 37 is a little old, but there's a pretty good reason why. First, let me introduce you to Luke. Luke and I met because we were neighbors. We lived next door to each other and we grew up playing with each other. We were the best of friends, and there was nothing we did separately. We went to the same school, and throughout our lives we were joined at the hip. Obviously, there weren't any romantic feelings between us while growing up. But when we were in high school, we both had a very dry spell when it came to dating. We were too close, and that always threw off our potential partners. I understood why that kept happening, because if the roles were reversed, I don't think I'd want my boyfriend to be such close friends with another girl. Anyways, because of this dry spell, Luke and I made a pact with each other that if by our 40s we were still single, we would marry each other. It's cliche, I know, but we figured if we'd been together all our lives, we might as well keep it that way until the end of our lives. Well, we ended up going our separate places for college. We lived somewhere in the middle of the United States, but we ended up going to college at 2 different ends of the country. Our connection was strong for the first 2 years, but then we slowly stopped talking to each other the more our lives got busy. By the time we graduated college, we only spoke to each other on occasion. But even then, the conversation would flow between us. It would never feel like we hadn't spoken to each other in months. We both got married to different people. We invited each other to our weddings. After that, we stopped talking to each other entirely, though. We got busy with our own lives. The few phone calls we made to each other dwindled to nothing. And while I did miss Luke, I found that I just never had the time to call or text him. It did not help that my husband at the time was very jealous. He didn't like it when I spoke to any other man. We would get into these huge screaming matches whenever I so much as looked at another man. The breaking point for me was when I caught my then husband cheating on me. When I asked him why, he told me that it was to get back at me for talking to his brother. Yes, his brother. At that point, I couldn't keep living with him. I had been married to him for a whopping 6 years. Thank God we never had any kids. Even though I felt I had gained my freedom, I also had felt like I lost something big in my life. The pain of everything that happened only came crashing down on me after our divorce was finalized. I was a depressed mess. Since I continued to live in the same city after graduating from university, the entire city had reminders of my ex-husband. So I moved back to my hometown. I lived with my parents for the first 6 months after I moved in. And around that time, I began going over to Luke's parents' place every once in a while to check up on them. I had always had a great relationship with them because I practically grew up with them. I saw that Luke's mom, Millie, became a lot more closed off and reserved. Now, she had always been a woman of few words. She never spoke unless spoken to, and whenever Luke's father, Charlie, was in the room, she barely spoke. But somehow, she became even more closed off. I remember I went over to her place just a couple of days ago before I moved into my new apartment. While Charlie was out, I wanted to check if she was actually doing okay. She told me that Charlie wasn't home and proceeded to close the door. I stuck my hand out in a panic to stop her for closing the door and told her that I was there to see her. She looked surprised before slowly opening the door again and letting me in. Once we were seated in the living room with a glass of lemonade in our hands, I asked her if she was doing all right. "Millie, is everything all right with you?" "Yes." I don't think you're doing okay." "I'm okay." "It's just, you seem very different." "No, I'm okay." "Look, I always knew that you were a closed-off person, but this is way too different. Is something happening that I should be concerned about?" "No." "Is Charlie doing something?" "No, nothing is happening." "If something is happening and you need anyone to talk to, I'm right here, okay?" "Okay, Charlie will be here soon. You should leave. He would be mad if he saw you were alone with me." "That doesn't seem healthy." "It's okay. It's time for you to leave right now." "Right. Don't forget you can reach out to me if you need, okay?" "Yes." With that, she hurried me out of the house. I frowned at the way that Millie was behaving. I did think that something was wrong with Charlie. Charlie was a very macho man. He was very traditional. Now, while I don't agree with his mindset, if Millie and him were happy, who was I to judge? But I thought that it was going too far if Millie was losing an entire part of who she was. When I sat in my room after meeting Millie, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I was way too concerned for her, and at that moment I suddenly had a flashback to a memory from when I was around 12 years old. Luke and I were playing outside. My parents had gone to work and had left me in the care of Charlie because he had a day off. Millie wasn't there because she had gone to visit her sister. I remember that I suddenly wanted to use the washroom. I sprinted to his place and I saw an unfamiliar car on the driveway. I thought Charlie must have had a friend over, so I quietly walked into the house. As I passed by the living room, I was stopped in my tracks. There, in the living room, was Charlie making out with another woman. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt so icky. I walked back out of the house because I knew that Charlie would get mad if he found out that I saw him. I still needed to pee really badly, so I made sure I made a lot of noise when entering the house a second time. This time when I walked in, only Charlie was there in the living room. The woman wasn't. She hid somewhere, and I wasn't too curious to find out where. I finished my business and quietly walked out. After that, my entire perception of Charlie shifted. I could never look at him in the eye and even laugh at anything he said. All I could think about was if Millie or even Luke knew. I don't know how to tell either of them. I knew that Charlie would convince them otherwise if I did tell them, and I probably wouldn't even be allowed inside their home again. Plus, I could have ruined my friendship with Luke. Luke had figured out something was wrong with me because I wasn't my usual happy self. He invited me over for a sleepover one night, and after the both of us were left alone to go to sleep, he asked me what was wrong. I tried to say nothing, but he kept insisting on finding out.
Come on, there's something wrong. Tell me. I'm your best friend, and if you don't tell me, who will you tell?
You're right, but...
No buts. We promised each other no secrets. Come on, just tell me.
I'm not saying this, but how would you feel if you caught someone cheating?
Cheating at what? A game? I would beat them if they cheated at a game. I don't like cheaters.
No, not a game.
Then...
cheat in a relationship.
Whoa, that's a big one. Why are you asking about it? Did you catch someone cheating?
Maybe, but what if it's a person that you're close to? What do you do?
Well, I would collect evidence and then show everyone the evidence so they feel ashamed of their actions.
But what if there's no way to collect any evidence?
I don't know. Maybe you just have to live with it until you can collect evidence. Who did you catch?
No one. Oh, I'm feeling sleepy. I'm going to sleep. I remember feeling helpless back then, but I figured that now I was all grown up. I could do something. I could hire a private investigator to do the job for me. I did contemplate doing that because it was a little creepy, but then I decided against it because I had no proof that Charlie was actually doing anything. About 3 years after I moved back, Luke also moved back home. I was very surprised to see him when I went over to meet Millie. Since Charlie and Millie were in the room with us, we decided that we would meet outside the next day when we have a second to ourselves. Luke had yet to unpack some of his things, and while I did offer to help, Luke assured me that he didn't need any help. The next day, we met at our favorite diner when we were still kids in high school. I had only 7 pictures of Luke on social media for the past few years, and none of the pictures did him any justice. He had grown into a very handsome man. Although he did look very tired, for a while Luke and I just stared at each other, taking in every little feature of the other. Finally, I broke the silence. So what brings you back in town?
A lot of things happened, and I guess I just wanted the comfort of home again.
Oof. How's the wife?
Yeah, I don't have a wife anymore.
Uh-oh. Do you mind me asking what happened?
No, I just caught her cheating on me. We were together for 9 years. I loved her. I guess the feeling wasn't mutual.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Getting cheated on sucks.
Tell me about it. What about you? I heard you got divorced too. Mind me asking why?
Same as you, except mine was a lot more toxic.
What do you mean by toxic?
Well, he cheated on me because I spoke to his brother, and he got so jealous, and he decided to get even with me.
Oh, wow, look at us. Did you ever think that we'd be here when we were younger?
Never. I had always hoped for a happier life, but I guess not.
Hey, do you remember that silly little pact we made?
We made a lot of pacts, Luke. Which one?
The one where we decided if we were single by 40, we'd marry each other?
Oh, yeah. We were crazy, weren't we?
Yeah. Do you think we're going to keep that pact?
Well, we still have about 6 more years till then, so sure. I was actually kind of excited about the pact. I knew for a fact that I would never be able to trust another man again because even though it had been 3 years since I got divorced, the wounds were still healing. Luke was the only exception because I had known him for almost all my life. From what I could tell, he was still the same golden retriever of a man. It was comforting to have him back. We began to hang out a lot more often after our first meeting. We would make time to hang out almost every day after work. And during weekends, we would either go out somewhere a little further away from our town, or we would stay at home and play video games. Before long, I found myself falling for Luke. It should have been weird for me, but the truth was that I hadn't had much contact with Luke for decades, give or take a few years. While he was still the same in his essence, he was different. He was a lot more grown up. He made sure I was always comfortable with everything and always made these small gestures that meant the world to me. He would listen to what I liked and would have it with him the next day, or he would plan an event around it. He just made me feel very seen and heard. One night, the both of us went drinking together, and well, one thing led to another, and we ended up in my apartment. The next morning, I woke up first and had a crisis. I was worried that Luke would regret whatever happened. I was scared that he would leave me, but as soon as he woke up, he hugged me and pulled me close to him. He looked me in the eye and asked me to be his girlfriend. My heart swooned. Of course I said yes, and then we began dating for another year. In that year, we told our families about our relationship. My parents simply grinned at me and told me that they had always seen our relationship coming, and that just made me shy. With Luke's parents, Millie gave me a small smile, while Charlie huffed and said it was about time. It felt good to be accepted by my partner's parents. That was not the case with my ex-husband's family. I had to bend over backwards for his parents to even acknowledge me. In that year, after 2 months of dating, I asked Luke to move in with me. I got to spend even more time with my best friend and boyfriend, and I could think of nothing more amazing than that. Our relationship only grew stronger with every day that passed. We had this way of understanding each other, and that only existed because we had known each other for so long. As a result, we rarely ever fought. In that year, I also began to notice some changes in the way Charlie treated me. He began treating me the same way he treated Millie. He would expect me to serve him food whenever we had dinner with Luke's family. Whenever Charlie and Millie came over to ours, Charlie would walk around our apartment and inspect every counter and object for dust. When he would find some dirt or dust, he would berate me for not cleaning up well. At first, it was a shock to both Luke and I. We didn't know how to react. I was very uncomfortable with the way that Charlie was treating me, but every time I tried to talk to him, he would ignore me. He only ever listened to what Luke had to say. One time, Luke got tired of his dad's antics and confronted him about it.
What the hell do you think you're doing by treating Megan this way? What way? Like she's inferior. You expect her to do the household work and never listen to what she has to say? That's how women are meant to be treated. If you don't put them in their place, they will run crazy. What are you on? That's not true at all. Apologize to Megan right now. Bah, apologize? Why? I'm the one that deserves an apology. She shouldn't have spoken to me until I spoke to her. Where the hell did this mindset of yours come from? The 1800s? It is the way things have been from the start. The rest of the world has chickened out of treating women the way they should have been treated. I'm the only one that has the guts to continue. Why was this mindset not there with Megan when she wasn't my girlfriend? Because she wasn't fully a part of this family yet. Whoever my son's date has the potential to be a part of this family, and she has got to learn what it's like to be in this family. That's not how it's gonna be. I don't want to talk to you until you apologize to Megan. Come on, Meg, we're leaving.
I was fuming when I heard what Charlie had to say. I had a good idea then of what Millie was going through. Charlie had only gotten worse when Luke left after college. He must have had Millie under a very oppressive thumb. And while she might have been okay with that, I was not. I knew I had the resources to find out information on Charlie now, and I was going to do it. I hired a PI behind Luke's back. I didn't want to say anything to Luke without having any actual evidence. He felt bad enough that Charlie was treating me that way. I didn't want him to doubt anything I was saying. I knew that he would never choose his father over me, but I still wanted to cover all my bases. About 3 months after I hired the PI, 2 things happened. First, Luke proposed to me, and we were set to get married in 3 months. Sure, that was a short time of dating, but we knew that we were the ones for each other. We only wanted to wait 3 months because we only wanted a small ceremony with our closest friends and family. Second, I got my evidence Charlie was cheating on Millie with the same woman from all those years ago. I was angry. I knew what it felt like to be cheated on, and I knew that it would absolutely break Millie and Luke. I wrestled with how to tell Luke and Millie for months. Every time I came close to telling them, I would chicken out. While I was wrestling with my thoughts, Luke and I were also planning our wedding. When the day of our wedding happened, it was a joyful day. I forgot all about my worries and just enjoyed being able to get married to the love of my life. It was a pretty emotional ceremony, and the reception was actually going great until Charlie decided to speak up. We were seated at this long dining table where all the guests sat to eat. Even though we had hired a waitstaff, Charlie decided to loudly ask that I get up and serve everyone as the good housewife that I was about to become. I was shocked, and Luke got angry. I swear my brain blanked at the moment because I didn't expect that. We had invited Charlie out of obligation, even though he did not apologize for his comments. I decided that I was going to expose Charlie right then and there. There was a limit to what Charlie could say and do. He decided to ruin my wedding with his misogyny, so I was going to ruin him. I got up from my seat and connected my phone to the laptop that was being used to display pictures of Luke and me on the screen. Everyone was staring at me by this point. I then began projecting the pictures that my PI had sent to me. Everyone's eyes went wide, including Luke and Millie's. I even heard a few gasps. Charlie sat in his seat looking very pale. My plan was not done yet. I grabbed the microphone and I began to narrate how I had caught Charlie making out with this woman back when I was 12. And that meant that this affair had been going on for 25 years. In those 25 years, Charlie only grew more oppressive. He began to impact his values about women being inferior, and you could see the effect it had on Millie as clear as day. I told Charlie that he had some nerve to ask me to be a good housewife when he couldn't even be a good husband. When I was done, Luke looked at his dad with so much anger that I did not recognize him. I knew that Luke took cheating very personally because of what he had gone through.
Is that real, Dad?
Have you been cheating on me with my best friend?
How dare you speak to?
Shut up! I've had enough of your nonsense. You have no right to say anything to me anymore. Megan is right. I strove all my life to be the good wife you demanded, but you couldn't even be faithful?
How dare you do this to us? You've been cheating for so long. Did you not care about your family? As a real man, I get to have as many partners as I want. None of you get to have any say. Get out! Get out of our lives and out of this hall. I will have you escorted out if you do not leave right now.
Charlie left without another word. We cut our reception short after that because I wanted to give Luke and Millie time to process everything after that. Charlie had been humiliated, and that was a big win. Luke asked me why I never told him earlier, and I told him that I had no evidence. I asked him if he remembered our conversation where I asked him what he would do if he caught someone cheating. He connected the dots and realized that's when I had found out about Charlie's affair. In the months that followed, Millie went to stay with her sister. She filed for a divorce. I had been worried about Charlie taking everything and leaving nothing to Millie, but to my utter surprise, Millie had made Charlie sign a prenup before they got married. The house had been a gift to Millie by her parents, so she would have the house too. Charlie was also expected to pay Millie alimony because he had forcefully made her quit her job, and as a result, she had no means to live. I was happy for Millie. Luke had gone over to his mom's place to pack all of Charlie's place. He was livid with Charlie. He threw all of Charlie's things into garbage bags and threw them into Charlie's face. Charlie was miserable. His mistress also had left him because he didn't have as much money anymore, nor did he have a house. It felt good to put a cheater in their place. It has been a couple of months since everything unfolded, but everything is getting back to normal. Luke is slowly learning to let go of anger. I managed to convince both Luke and Millie to start going to a therapist, and it's been helping them a lot. Luke and I are also expecting a baby soon, so that's some more happy news. Millie is staying with us until I give birth, and it's refreshing to see her come out of a shell. Life is going well right now, and I couldn't be happier. We're slowly putting things behind us and learning to look forward in the future. We've learned to accept that when we hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up. Thanks for listening.